Morning, fellow zombies. Well, it's 5:30 in the morning, so I'm barely alive and barely awake anyway again. Labor Day, September 2nd, 2024. We got an asteroid passing by us, and not too much news is being made of it. But if we're talking about Rancho's Palos Verdes, yep, news made on that one too. Last night, or actually yesterday, Edison decided to shut off power in the most affected areas of Rancho Palos Verdes, probably to save their infrastructure, but definitely not to help the people out left and right. They're trying to give them temporary hotel vouchers should those decide to leave the area. But most of them, they're not going to leave. And now they're getting inconvenienced. They need generators to keep running the power going on in the area. And it's pissing people off left and right. I've got KTLA Channel 5 local news on. They're going to be talking about what's happening. So I'm just trying to keep an ear and an eye open. So you may hear some bleed over. We're going to be cooking this weekend in the desert. We're going to be pulling triples all throughout the week. So we're not going to be having fun. I should be grateful that I am not in the area where Rancho is, where there's affected streets out there that are shut down permanently without water, without power, without services. And it kind of sucks because they're still trying to save and salvage their infrastructure. But the truth be told, nobody has ever been in a major slide situation. They don't have experience in a situation. They're going through it blindly. And a lot of people are pissed. They're pissed off the local government. They're pissed off at the services. They don't know what to do at this point. For those who actually can't afford generators, they're trying to get their own generators. Some generators are actually big and bulky. The smaller ones just don't cut it. Community centers being opened up about 10 to 7 in their local area in Rancho to allow cell phones to be powered up or a few other items. But when it comes down for what we're dealing with, generating enough power to keep the sewage going and keep the plumbing working, we're to me, for the public's own good, it looks like it's a forced evacuation by shutting off services. Simply put, services want to salvage as much as they can of their infrastructure. They'll say that they're trying to help the people out. It doesn't look like it. No. But they are trying to salvage as much as they can of their equipment, but really not helping the people out by making them miserable as hell. Never makes sense. No one has ever been through this because they're looking for a playbook. They're going by what they think, what they know, what they don't know, and the local government is going to be in serious hot water over this one. Would I blame them? No. Would I blame the local communities? I'm trying to understand the situation, yeah. Edison almost lost a transformer because of ground movement. And with that, they almost lost poles and line. But also, they had a fire out in the area. Fire was taken care of. But it's still ticking off people left and right over it. Yes, it's inconveniencing as hell, but there's really not much can be said or done about it, is there? According to the geologists, what they keep reporting on the news, it's been ongoing for years, but at a slow creep. It's only gotten this bad because the rains that we've actually had that couldn't be distributed enough, and it's just got super saturated in. It's allowing movement in the earth to make things worse for everybody. I'm not pointing a finger on this one because there's no local blaming on this one. When they put in their sewer lines, when they put in their water lines, it's underneath. Even the gas lines, they already took that out. I understand about them shutting out the gas line. If the slide had gotten worse, or when it gets worse, and they'll be stretching on the lines themselves. I mean, they could have just, people could say, well, they could have just brought them up. You know how many lines there are underneath the concrete that they're going to have to crack open and making passage worse for everybody, including emergency services that, if are needed, it's going to be impossible for them to get through. Same thing for the water line. I mean, yeah, it does take water to move the liquid around in the pipes, but also for the sewage to get pumped out. People are still trying to blame which community has done this to them. Mother Nature. And even insurance companies won't cover this kind of stuff because there's nothing that people can do about it. We had the rains. We had them soaking up in us. Hang on a second. They're going to be talking about an asteroid here. Pass by Earth and get close enough to be seen from the northern hemisphere. The asteroid will zoom past Earth at a distance of about 620,000 miles. That's more than 2.5 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Scientists say the distance is safe and that such a close approach happens on average once every decade. The flyby can be watched live online through the Virtual Telescope project starting September 15th at 11:30 our time. A new study finds California leads the... Okay, so I don't have to worry about that one, now, do I? At least not for today. Around the 15th, huh? Okay, cool. That's what they predict. But there's no way of predicting. I mean, they can measure the creep of the soil. They can measure the deformation of the ground. And yes, it hurts of having a home that you lived there for a long while and now it's going to be gone. Almost the same feeling that when you have fire in the area, if you're in the hillsides and you've got mountainous terrain for beauty, but then it turns into deadly, dries up, becomes kindling, and then you start losing houses left and right. There had been communities over the last decade, if I'm not mistaken, maybe one or two, lost. Literally by fire. But we have yet to see a major community, or even a small community, getting wiped out by oversaturation in the ground. They think it's easy. Just soak out the water, right? I think the geologists and the engineers are afraid at this point over here, but rightfully so. If there is a way of draining out the water from the deep slide, fine, but that thing's moving a lot faster, and they're measuring it one way or another. I don't have the equipment. I don't know how they're measuring it. I'm not a geologist. I'm not an engineer. I don't have those kind of degrees, and I can't do numbers in my head like that. But hearing what's happening right now, undering a little smattering of geology is not enough. But even if you had a PhD, it's still not enough because the Earth still throws us curveballs. And this is a major curveball that Rancho is not going to get past. I'm not laughing about this one because this could happen to any other community that we have, but we have a community on the seaside. We have an extension a jutting extension off the coastline that people tried to make a home. Wasn't it decades ago we actually had a marine land along the coastline and then they had to shut it down and then put people over there? But that's what's happening, isn't it? And no one back there ever actually thought about geology because it wasn't all that imperative. If it was sliding, it was very slow. Nobody picked up on the damn thing. But now it's gotten worse because of oversaturation. And it's not our fault. Or is it? Some of the other communities are getting the blame because of the way they're not shutting or channeling runoff. That got absorbed in the water instead of just running off into the ocean. So now they got to worry about that one. And yes, I am worried for them. We're seeing a lot of beach erosion. We're seeing a lot of road being remade all over again. Dynamics of the earth that we're dealing with. And weather. So, what we're dealing with right now is we're fighting against time. We're fighting against major soil creep. We're fighting against material that is sliding slowly on an angle. It would have been nice if they actually auger through and get the liquid drained out of the layers. Do hydroggers on them. And just have the pipes drain the water off and to be stabilizing. It would be nice if we can do that. They say it costs millions of dollars to do that because of the equipment and personnel. Finding where the slide is at, where the liquid's at, so they can get into it. Is it too late? I don't know. I'm not a geologist. I am worried for them. I'm scared for them. And I don't think these people have a choice. If there's no stabilization in the ground that they can try to come up with in time. The hardest decision is to leave home that you were comfortable with for decades. That you had a family to grow up under. You wanted to stay. I mean, it was a perfect place, you probably thought. And now it isn't. You can't blame management for it because this is geology. This is what the planet does. And unfortunately, sometimes human beings can screw things up that allow more and more changes than what normally is. Had this place been doing it for decades, even longer than that, if they could do, if they were able to look into the cross sections and see, they would probably make those kind of decisions. But since they can't, it's kind of hard to talk about it because you're losing families, you're losing homes out there. What scares me is if or when it starts abruptly to move faster for whatever reason. If it was so saturated enough where it's going faster than what they can do and predict, and then people will have to run out. Or there'll be people falling in with the homes into the water. I'm worried about that one. We've had we've had landslides happening along the coastline. Sporadic areas. But this would be a major slide that affects more. And I wish I had better news to talk about. I wish I had. It's one thing if you're dealing with fire. Maybe you could rebuild the area. Maybe you can replant, and maybe in a few years it'll be looking somewhat okay. You can deal with fire, but you can't deal with a slide because the slide changes things around, changes dynamics. So this is what's happening. This is what's happening now. How are we going to deal with it? I wish I had an answer for it.